I run a hostel in Byron Bay. And last month, this woman from Dallas walked into our communal kitchen holding a bottle of wine like she'd just won a medal. She announced to the entire room she'd brought wine for the barbecue tonight, waiting for applause. 3 German backpackers looked up from their pasta, nodded once, then went back to cooking. The American stood there, frozen, bottle extended, smile fading. She whispered to her friend, "Did I do something wrong?" Her friend shrugged. An hour later, I found her Googling Australian party etiquette emergency on her phone. I sat down and explained that BYO isn't a generous gesture here. It's the baseline expectation. She looked like I'd told her Santa wasn't real. Week before that, different American couples showed up for a Sunday lunch at someone's house. They'd stopped at 3 shops trying to find the perfect hostess gift. Imported chocolates, fancy cheese, the whole production. Walked in and saw everyone else had brought slabs of beer and bags of ice. The husband clutched his gift basket and said, "We thought Australians were casual. They're casual." That's exactly the problem. They spent the afternoon overdressed for the vibe, their gifts sitting awkwardly on the counter, while everyone else grabbed tinnies from the esky. Then there's the shouting situation. I'm a bartender here too, and I watched this guy from Phoenix absolutely spiral last weekend. His new Australian mates bought him around. He said thanks, ordered another beer for himself 10 minutes later. Just himself. The whole table went quiet. One of the Aussies leaned over and said, "Mate, it's your shout." The American looked confused. "My shout?" "I didn't yell anything," his friend explained the round system. The Phoenix guy's face went white. He did the mental math for 6 people, 6 pints, realized he'd just accepted a $70 obligation by saying yes to 1 free beer. He pulled out his phone calculator, started budgeting, then looked up and said, "In America, if someone buys you a drink, that's just a nice thing. In Australia, it's a contract. My flatmate works at a cafe on the Gold Coast." She served an American who ordered a flat white, then spent 5 minutes trying to explain his recent promotion, how hard he'd worked, his new title, the corner office. My flatmate smiled politely and said, "Good on you, mate." The guy's face fell. He'd expected more. Maybe congratulations, maybe follow-up questions, maybe some acknowledgement of his significance. She brought him his coffee and moved on. He sat there for an hour, visibly deflated. Later, he asked another customer if Australians were emotionally distant. The customer laughed and said, "Nah, we just don't make a big deal out of stuff." The American looked crushed. So here's what Americans discover when they land here. All their instincts are wrong. The friendly gestures backfire. The casual approach somehow requires more rules. The humility feels like indifference. They freeze up because nothing works the way they expect. Let me walk you through exactly how it happens. I work reception at a dental clinic in Perth. Last Tuesday, this American woman complimented her dentist for 10 straight minutes after a routine cleaning. She kept saying, "You're so talented, truly gifted, best dentist I've ever had." The dentist shifted uncomfortably in his chair, mumbled, "Just doing my job, really," and left the room fast. The American turned to me and said, "Did I offend him?" "I was being nice." I explained tall poppy syndrome. She frowned. "So I'm supposed to not compliment people?" I said, "You can compliment people, but going overboard makes them uncomfortable." She looked baffled. "In Texas, if you're good at something, people celebrate you." I told her, "Here, if you're good at something, you're expected to act like it's no big deal." She sat there processing this, then said, "That's actually exhausting." Her next appointment. She walked out in silence. My brother manages a community sports club in Adelaide, and an American exchange student joined our cricket team last season. After his first match, where he scored decently, he posted on Instagram, "Dominated today, proving once again why hard work pays off." Included 3 selfies, multiple hashtags. The team group chat went quiet. Next practice, nobody said anything directly, but the sledging started. "Bit full of yourself, aren't you? Reckon you'll sign autographs for us?" The American didn't understand he'd been cut down. He thought they were joking. Posted again after the next match. By week 3, half the team had him on mute. He complained to my brother that Australians were jealous of confidence. My brother pulled him aside and said, "Mate, we're not jealous. You're just being a wanker." the American said. I'm just owning my success, my brother said. Yeah, that's the problem. The guy transferred clubs a month later. Still convinced Australia had a confidence problem. I'm a teacher in Brisbane. And we hosted an American exchange teacher who introduced herself at a staff meeting by listing her degrees. Her publications, her teaching awards, her specialized certifications. Took 4 minutes. The room got quieter with each credential. When she finished, our principal said, "Right, well, welcome aboard," and moved on. No applause, no follow-up questions, nothing. The American looked stunned. She told me later she'd spent a week preparing that introduction, thought it would establish credibility. I explained that Australians find credential listing off-putting. She said, but in the States, that's how you establish professional authority. I told her here, you establish authority by doing your job well and letting others notice. She tried the humble approach for a while, but I could tell it killed her. She kept wanting to mention her qualifications, biting her tongue every time. By term's end, she admitted she felt invisible here. My cousin works at a law firm in Melbourne. Their new American consultant kept sending all staff emails about his case wins. Thrilled to announce we secured a major victory today. Proud to share this excellent outcome. Every single win an email? After the third one, a senior partner replied, with just good stuff. That was it. The American sent a follow-up asking if there'd be a formal announcement or celebration. The partner called him into his office and said, "Mate, we don't do that here," the American said. "But in New York, big wins get recognized publicly," the partner said. "We're not in New York. Just do good work and move on." The American stopped sending the emails but complained to my cousin that Australian work culture lacked positive reinforcement. My cousin tried explaining that not getting cut down is the positive reinforcement. The American said, "That's depressing." He lasted 6 months before requesting a transfer back to the States. I'm a barista on the Sunshine Coast. And an American customer spent 20 minutes explaining why he deserved a discount because he's a loyalty customer and had been coming here for 2 whole weeks. He mentioned his busy schedule, his demanding job, how much he appreciates good service. I just stared at him. Finally said, "The price is $12. He looked offended. In America, businesses reward loyal customers. I told him 2 weeks doesn't make him loyal, and even if it did, we don't do special treatment here. He said, "Wow, so nobody gets recognized for being a good customer?" I said everyone's a good customer if they pay and don't cause trouble. He paid, left no tip, and wrote a Google review saying Australian service lacks appreciation for patronage. The review got one response from a local, "It's coffee. Mate, not a relationship." My flatmate's a physio in Sydney, and she treated an American who couldn't stop talking about his workout achievements every session. His marathon time, his deadlift PR, his body fat percentage, his disciplined routine. She'd nod and redirect to the actual injury. He kept circling back to his fitness accomplishments, clearly waiting for praise. Session 4, he said, "You haven't really acknowledged my athletic background." She said, "I'm here to fix your shoulder, not judge your fitness." He looked hurt. "In California, people celebrate fitness achievements," she said. "Good for California." He switched to another physio the next week. Complained she was cold. She told me later that Americans mistake neutrality for rudeness because they're used to constant validation. I worked the ticket counter at a cinema in Hobart, and this American family walked up last month asking what our customer appreciation discount was. I said we don't have one. The dad frowned. "What about military discount?" "No, senior discount. Only on Tuesdays." "Student discount. Only with valid Australian student ID. Loyalty program. We have a points card." "Birthday discount?" "No." He looked genuinely confused. "So you just charge everyone the same price?" I said yes. That's how pricing works. He said in the States, there's always some kind of deal or recognition program. I told him Australian businesses don't do the whole tiered pricing thing. He bought the tickets but kept muttering about missed opportunities for customer engagement. His wife asked if we were struggling financially to not offer promotions. I just handed them their tickets. My uncle manages a bottle shop in Darwin, and an American couple came in asking if they could return wine they didn't like. They'd opened it, tried it, decided it wasn't good. My uncle said no. The American said, "We have the receipt." My uncle said, "Doesn't matter. You opened it and drank some." The American said, "But in America, customer satisfaction is guaranteed." My uncle said, "This isn't America, and you already consumed the product." The American insisted this was terrible business practice and that the customer is always right. My uncle said, "Mate, the customer is sometimes right, and right now, you're not." He demanded to speak to the owner. My uncle said, "I am the owner." They left the open bottle on the counter and walked out. Posted on Facebook about Australian business having no accountability. The post got ratioed by locals. I'm a waiter at a restaurant in Newcastle. And last week, an American kept snapping his fingers at me for service. Actually snapping. Like I'm a dog. I ignored it the first time. Second time, I walked over and said, "Don't do that." He looked offended. "I'm just trying to get your attention." Said there are other ways that don't involve snapping at people. He said, "It's just efficient." I said, "It's rude." He said, "Wow, sensitive much." I told him if he snapped again, he could leave. His wife apologized and said, "He's used to American service standards." Said American service standards don't apply here. Rest of the meal, he waved politely, but looked miserable, like I'd stripped away his authority. Left a comment card saying, "Australian servers need hospitality training." Laughed and threw it away. My sister works at a bakery in Fremantle, and an American tourist asked if we had sugar-free, gluten-free, dairy-free options with no processed ingredients. My sister said no. The American said nothing. My sister said we have regular baked goods. The American looked around like she'd entered a time warp. How do you accommodate dietary restrictions? My sister said we don't really. But what if someone has allergies? My sister said they go somewhere else. The American stood there stunned. Finally said in the States, every bakery has alternative options. My sister said, "Good for the States." The American asked to speak to the owner about expanding the menu to be more inclusive. My sister said, "I am the owner, and no." The American left empty-handed. Posted online about Australian food service being 10 years behind. It's got responses from Australians saying, "Maybe just eat regular food." I'm a personal trainer in Canberra. An American client kept asking for extra attention because he was paying for premium service. I said everyone pays the same rate and gets the same attention. He said, "But I'm willing to pay more for VIP treatment." I told him I don't do VIP treatment. He said, "Why not?" "It's good business." I said, "Because I treat all clients equally." He genuinely couldn't grasp this. But in America, premium pricing gets premium service. I said this isn't America, and everyone here gets the same quality, regardless of how much they fuss about it. He switched trainers after 2 sessions, found another American expat who apparently understood his need for differentiated service experiences. They train together now, probably validating each other's complaints about Australian lack of service hierarchy. My cousin runs a salon in the Gold Coast, and an American booked a haircut, then showed up 15 minutes late, expected to be seen immediately. My cousin said she'd have to reschedule. The American said, "I'm only 15 minutes late." My cousin said her next appointment was already there. The American said, "Can't you just squeeze me in?" My cousin said, "No, that's not fair to the person who showed up on time." The American said, "In LA. Salons are flexible with timing," my cousin said. "We're not in LA, and we respect people's time here." The American accused her of being inflexible and not customer-focused. My cousin said punctuality is part of being a good customer. The American rescheduled, showed up 10 minutes late again, got rescheduled again. Left a review saying the salon was rigid and unwelcoming. The review got comments from locals saying, "Maybe just show up on time." I'm a rideshare driver in Cairns, and picked up these Americans who wanted to pop over to Uluru for the day. I said Uluru's about 30 hours drive from here. They laughed like I was joking, pulled out their phone, showed me the map. "See, it's in the same country." I zoomed out for them. They went quiet. That's Really far. I said, Australia's massive. They said, but it's all in the middle. How hard can it be? I explained the middle is mostly desert with limited services. They looked betrayed. Our travel agent said Australia was easy to navigate. I said it is if you understand the distances. They spent the rest of the ride recalculating their entire itinerary, visibly stressed. In America, you can drive across several states in a day. I said, good for America. But here, distances work differently. My brother's a pilot for a regional airline. An American passenger asked if they were flying over the outback on a Melbourne to Sydney route. My brother said no, that's the opposite direction. The American said, but I thought the outback was everywhere. My brother explained the outback as a specific region, mostly central in northern Australia. The American said our guidebook made it seem like it was the whole country. My brother said guidebooks simplify things. The American then asked if they'd see kangaroos from the plane. My brother said probably not, considering they'd be cruising at 35,000 feet. The American looked disappointed. So what's there to see? My brother said clouds, mostly. The American spent the flight staring out the window. Convinced Australia had been oversold. I work at a train station in Brisbane. And an American asked me why the trains don't run 24/7. I said because they don't, he said. But in New York, the subway runs all night.
Oh.
I said, this isn't New York, he said. It's a capital city, there should be late night transport. I told him Brisbane isn't the capital and our trains stop around midnight. He looked annoyed. That's so inconvenient. I said take a taxi or plan better. He said, why doesn't the city invest in better infrastructure? I said because that's how it is. He stood there, visibly frustrated. In America, major cities prioritize 24-hour transport. I said Australia isn't America, and if he wanted American infrastructure, he should have stayed in America. He walked away muttering about backwards public transport systems. My flatmate drives a tour bus on the Great Ocean Road, and an American tourist asked if they were almost there yet 15 minutes into a 12-hour tour. My flatmate said no, they'd just started. The American said, but we've been on the bus forever. My flatmate said forever is 15 minutes. The American said it feels long. My flatmate explained Australian tours cover huge distances because Australia is huge. The American said, can't we just speed up? My flatmate said, no, they're already going the speed limit. The American looked miserable. In the States, tours are more compact. A flatmate said that's because American attractions are closer together. The American spent the whole day asking how much longer, checking his watch, sighing loudly. Left a review saying the tour was unnecessarily long. Other reviewers responded, it's geography, mate, not a design flaw. I'm a car rental agent in Alice Springs. And an American returned a vehicle complaining it didn't have enough range. Said the car's fine, he just underestimated distances. He said, I plan to visit 3 towns in one day. I checked his itinerary. The 3 towns were 400 kilometers apart each way. I said that's not realistic. He said, why not? I showed him the distances. He said, but they're all in the Northern Territory. I said the Northern Territory is massive. He said, our GPS made it look close. I said, GPS shows scale poorly here. He said, well, that's misleading. I said, it's not misleading, it's Australia. He demanded a refund for inaccurate travel planning resources. Said we rent cars, we don't plan your trip. He left angry, probably telling people Australian rental agencies are unsupportive. My cousin works at an airport information desk in Perth. And an American asked where the Australia tourist office was located. My cousin said there isn't one centralized office. The American said, but I have questions about the whole country. My cousin said you'll need to contact specific state offices. The American looked confused. Why isn't there one place for all Australia information? My cousin explained that states operate semi-independently with tourism. The American said, that's so inefficient. My cousin said it works fine. The American said in the US, you can get information about the whole country from one place. My cousin said the US also has state tourism boards. The American said, yeah, but there's a federal backup. My cousin handed him a brochure for Western Australia and said, start here. The American walked away looking overwhelmed. I'm a bus driver in Hobart. And an American asked if this route goes to the beach. I said, which beach? He said, the beach. I said, Tasmania has hundreds of beaches. He said, the main one. I said, there's no main beach. He looked frustrated. Can you just take me to a beach? I said, not unless he specifies which one, because this bus doesn't go to most beaches. He said, why not? I said, because it's a city bus, not a beach shuttle. He said, in Florida, buses go to beaches. I said, good for Florida. He ended up getting off at a random stop, presumably to walk to whatever body of water he could find. Probably ended up at the docks, disappointed. So if you're American and planning to visit, lower your expectations for recognition. Bring your own wine. Return the shout. Downplay your success. Check the actual distances. And accept that sometimes good enough is good enough. Because here, that's all anyone's trying to be.